I'm Leanne Tran, psychologist who's worked with families whose kids don't fit the mould for almost 20 years. I've worked with children for decades, but I know parents are the real change makers when it comes to their kids. Having 3 kids of my own means I know it's not easy. Parent Like a Psychologist is all about simplifying how you support your kids with psychology information filtered through years of experience to take you from overwhelmed to confident. Come on in. Welcome to another episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. We are talking about meltdowns today, and I wonder if this sounds like you. You've said no to screen time, and now your child's screaming, throwing things, and you're just standing there wondering what went wrong. You're not a bad parent, you're not alone. There is a reason your child acts this way. We are talking about when meltdowns seem to rule the day. They're so big. They are these really big emotional experiences that can just drain parents and drain kids, and kids can have a hard time just moving on out of them. So, this is for you if you feel overwhelmed, confused, or frustrated by your child's meltdowns, especially if they can't be reasoned with, or seem to lose it over small things, or have really big explosive reactions to little things. Parents often describe it as having everyone walking on eggshells as well. You're not a bad parent, you're not alone. And it's it's the type of conversation I have a lot. So I want to reassure you there. I want to talk today about what a meltdown actually is, some of the common triggers, firstly, what not to do in a meltdown, and then what to do instead. Also, let's talk about once they're over, what to do after the storm, how you can kind of use that time to make some progress. And if you feel like this resonates with you, or if you feel like already you're like, yeah, I need help with meltdowns, come and join Chaos to Calm, where we talk through all of these challenges in depth. Because sometimes it takes a long time to work out what's going on underlying the meltdown. There is a reason, you can understand it, but it's complex for a lot of kids. And so having somebody who can guide you through the process of working out what to look at, what to think about, what to try differently is a really great thing to have in your pocket. So let's talk about what a meltdown actually is. Meltdowns aren't tantrums. Um, Tantrums are when kids are acting out to achieve a desired goal. So think about it. You've asked for chips at the grocery store, mum said no, and then you are stomping your feet and yelling, that type of thing. Meltdowns are different. They are the brain going into fight or flight mode, usually due to too much stress, too many feelings, or too much demand. The difference is, I think, parents will often say to me, it's like they are just out of control. They're not in control. There's no reasoning. It's just they've lost it. That's where the term, things like they've flipped their lid, they've lost it, they're having a meltdown comes from. It's really distinctly different from a tantrum in which kids are still in control and they're using strategies they have to try and achieve an outcome. Don't get me wrong, I don't tantrums are still a challenge and there's different skills you can use to help manage that, but we're talking about, in this case, what a meltdown is, and it's when your kid's lost it. So, it's helpful to maybe imagine that your child's brain has this cup of capacity. It's like, this 1 cup reserve of coping skills. Every time something hard happens, and for autistic kids and ADHDers, that's things like loud noises, confusing instructions, hunger, a change in routine, um, that cup gets kind of filled up with stuff. When it overflows, that's when a meltdown happens. Kids just don't have the capacity to handle it anymore. So some of the common what well, yeah, I'm gonna go into the common triggers. What I wanna say first is that it is quite common for people to say it just comes out of nowhere. Teachers might say that, parents might say that too sometimes. But the thing I know as a psychologist is that behavior always has a function. It always serves a purpose. There is always a reason. We don't do things for just no reason. And so, but it is complex, and sometimes we have to look hard to work out what's happening. Some of the common triggers that your kids might experience that cause a meltdown, and if you think about it, maybe it's that just last straw that broke the camel's back. Things like transitions, so having to turn off screens, that's a transition. Having to leave the house, that's a transition. Having to stop any activity that they've been enjoying and doing something else is a transition. The next thing is unexpected changes as well. So that stress or anxiety, fight or flight response to things not going to plan, that's a big trigger as well. Another one is sensory overwhelm. That could be noise, could be lights, could be smells. A really common one also are physical experiences. So being tired or being hungry. Those are also triggers for tantrums and things like that as well. You can, when kids are little, you can, oh, they're tired. And parents often know if they've skipped a nap, like, oh, it's going to be a tricky afternoon. And so kids, that's, if you think about it with that cup analogy too, dealing with anything when we're tired is harder. And dealing with things when we're hungry is hard. And then one of the other common things is demands that feel too hard or unfair as well. And so for kids who like things to be fair, for kids who like rules to be followed and have strong expectations about the right way to do things, that will be something that can be a trigger for a meltdown, which again, remember, is just this overwhelmed um, feeling of capacity, going into fight or flight mode because of too much stress, too many feelings, or too many demands. When we think about it that way, I think it's helpful to try and step into your kids' shoes about the day they've had. You see this meltdown happen. You might have seen the trigger of what happened just before it, but usually there are other things as well that have contributed before that trigger. So um, sometimes parents say things go from 0 to 100 really quickly, and there are some kids who do escalate like that quite quickly. But there are also things that we can miss that lead up to that. So, for example, it might be a kid who hasn't slept well the night before, um, hasn't had their breakfast yet, is feeling overwhelmed by maybe they're sad they've just said goodbye to a parent who just left for work, and then the sensory overwhelm hits. So there's often situations that lead up to it and before that last trigger. So if you try and empathize with it from your child's point of view and think about then how overwhelmed and upset they feel in that moment, these things about what not to do make perfect sense. So the first one is don't reason with them. Don't lecture, don't try to talk them through it. Because when kids are in that fight or flight state, um, they've lost the ability to problem solve and think through things critically. I can relate to that myself as an adult, so I would encourage you to think about it as well in the circumstances where you felt really upset. Like the common example is maybe an argument with sibling, a parent, or a partner, when we're feeling really upset like that, we don't problem solve well. We don't behave rationally or logically or even maturely some of the time. So don't think that your kids can do that either. They just don't have that capacity in that moment. The second thing is to not take it personally. It's not a power play. It's not manipulation. I think that's a really negative way to view what your child is doing, which is essentially just trying to cope. Um, and if we start attributing things to our kids, like that they're doing it on purpose to hurt me, they're being manipulative, it just doesn't, it really affects the relationship you need to have in order to feel empathetic to your child. And then the last thing to do is to avoid escalating it as well. So if we see that, your kid's gone from 0 to 100 really quickly, the last thing you want to do is anything that's going to make it up to a 200. So that is things like yelling, grabbing them, threatening them, talking about punishment, um, all of those things that might lead to an escalation. Essentially, the way I look at it from uh, the psychology lens is that what we want to do in a meltdown is, because kids have lost the ability to reason at that point, nothing's going to be gained. It's not going to be resolved. The only goal we should have as parents is to try to bring it back down. Um, don't escalate it. Try to do whatever you can to stabilize the situation and to try to help your kids feel safe so that the meltdown can pass with everyone being okay. How do you do that? You might think. So, here's what I would say to do instead. The first thing is to stay calm and predictable. So, um, essentially, by what the purpose of staying calm is so that your kid feels safe. So, what you can do is to speak less, because the more you talk, the more demand you're putting on your kid to try and process that in their really heightened state. So, speak less, or not at all. Sometimes not at all is fine. The next thing is to try to move slowly, maybe reduce stimulation as well. So it might be that if there is music on and there's people around, perhaps you turn the music off, you ask the other family members to go outside for a bit. So you try to reduce that stimulation. The next thing is to lower demands as well. So give your child space. Um, don't expect them to fix their feelings quickly. Don't expect them to talk to you. Don't expect them to hug you or sit near you. Just give them space. You can allow them to do any stimming stuff that they want to do if they like that. You can allow them to go into a space where they feel comfy and safe, whether that's under a blanket in their little um, corner, or to retreat if they need to. So I know some kids who just really need to be alone and have a bit of distance, and so they might move away out of eyesight of a carer, close, but just because they need to be alone. So let your kid do that. The other thing you can do is to try to validate and provide safety quietly. So this is sending messages like, "You're safe. I'm here," and also acknowledging the feelings that your kid has. So, like you're saying, "This is really hard," or "You feel terrible. You're really angry," things like that. You might say those things, or you might, if your kid doesn't like a lot of talking in these moments, you might say it just through your body language and proximity. So you might just sit somewhere near your child in their vision. Um, could be close, could be far away, depending on your child. When when I have situations like this with a client, particularly, because I don't have that safe relationship of a parent and a child, I will often make sure I'm sitting down lower than them, so I'm not imposing just by being taller. So I'll often sit on the floor so that I'm looking up at them to convey that I'm definitely not a threat and they're safe. And then it's about writing it out safely. So you're not doing anything to try to fix it. You're just focusing on the child's safety and that of other people around. And by doing that, the best thing is for everyone else to leave rather than you try and pick up this child and move them away. It's on safety, it's on regulation. So either giving your child time to get to the point where they will let you in to help them regulate, or already by helping them regulate. For example, reflecting back their feelings and helping them either with a, a hug or a firm pressure or, um, oh, just had a blank. Hug, firm pressure, or something else like helping them with breathing, whatever it is that works with your child. So it's just about safety and regulation and not about discipline. You're not trying to teach the lesson, you're not trying to explain why they should have done things differently or what happened. It's just about writing it out safely. And then after the storm, this is where you can focus on that connecting and learning or teaching. And so that's once your child is calm, reflecting back to them, um, that was really tough. And what helped you feel better? So it's just you probably want to avoid talking about things like that wasn't a good choice or that kind of stuff, because kids, they don't really make that choice. It's just their reaction, emotional reaction. But talking through how hard it was, what helped you feel better, why do you think that happened? When did you start feeling bad? What might help next time? And the other part you can do, which is a really positive strategy to get to, is to celebrate what things you saw your child doing to attempt to manage and cope with how they were feeling. And so you might say things like, I saw you trying to do big breaths. That's awesome. I saw you trying that. And I've had situations where been able to talk this through with kids, and they've identified 3 or 4 things they tried to do to manage it. And so reflecting that back to your kids as a positive is going to make it more likely to happen next time. There's no point focusing on all the things they didn't do or how it didn't go well, because that doesn't teach them anything. What helps is saying, "I recognize what you tried there. Did that work? Or how do you think doing it a bit differently next time might work better? What do you think?" Really giving them the opportunity to reflect on it. And so I want to, I guess, end this by saying that meltdowns happen also, and there's not really a case in which we'll make sure that they never happen again for our kids. Um, they're not signs of brokenness. They're not signs of you failing as a parent. They are signals, they're communication about emotions. And so the more we can understand what's happening, the more we can prevent them from happening by meeting a child's needs more in the beginning. I would encourage you to think about just one small change you could make this week based on what we've talked about today. Even if it's just about noticing when the cup is getting full, and maybe stepping back off some of the pressure or thinking about how you can prevent that overflow happening. Another great tip would be to maybe have a plan, like a calm down plan or a kit with things like visuals and sensory stuff that your kid loves ahead of time that you might be able to use if the cup overflows. Um, I'd love to hear from you what tip you took from today that you're going to try to use this week, and feed it back to us. Let me know on Instagram or email it through, because the things that you do can help other people as well. And so if you think too, wow, that's not even going to scratch the surface of the level of meltdown we're having in our house, then I want to know that, you're not failing either. And there are some families who just, it's so much of a struggle. And if that's you, I can go deeper into all of this stuff with you and do so through the Chaos to Calm program. And the beauty of that is going through it with other families as well, so that you can hear from each other's observations and ideas, and recognize those signs of overwhelm and set up a plan that really, really works. So look out for that next group starting in October, and we would love to have you there. But for now, just think about the one thing that you can focus on shifting and changing for this week, and it will make a difference. One little step at a time has a snowball effect. So I hope you have a good week, and hope everyone you know and love has a cup that's not overflowing, that's got lots of space, lots of resilience. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.